Ha! Here we go.
Have a sip of water, and maybe I can steal a victory kiss or two, eh? I'm glad to be wandering the wilds with you.
Should have known she was lying. She said she'd wait for me.
Rise victorious, Lord.
find them.
Now you're mine.
You will be enough for the master. The rightful Dragonborn comes soon.
Sick of him. Let's do some of again! Victory or Dawnguard!
I will protect you, Dragonborn.
We bloody did it!
the fight. Fall to my blade. Let it be a lesson to others.
What was that? That's her. Victoria does not like that.
We're about to have company with the hostile camp.
Victoria will singe your whiskers.
Thank you, love, for seeing me.
How did you hit Kaidan? That's her. Victoria does not like that.
Try to end this.
Oblivion, take you!
Does you want it? Oh, no.
Oh, I knew this would be a pain. Eat, you useless diseased little shit! You little shit! Give up! Creepy fuckers!
How can this one help?
Discover anything interesting?
With so many books you gave her, Latoria was able to discover a few things. Here, take a look. What can Latoria do for you, Guildmaster? Happy hunting. Latoria greets you. Until we speak again.
If you hear someone screaming, remember, it's not me. Well, that's unless a spider crawls at me bits again. I don't like the look of this.
Hell yeah!
Careful. Riften's not the safest place for a nighttime stroll. Bet that tall one could take anyone in a brawl.
God, get on. I even got any treats, dog. Right.
That's close enough.
You're dead!
Certainly right.
That's the face I fell in love with.
Sometimes I wonder if this is all just a dream. It feels too good to be true.
What do you mean?
You, me, finding each other, being this happy.
Sometimes I feel the same. Never imagined meeting someone like you. And now, well, I can't imagine my life without you.
How do you feel about me?
There's nothing I love in the world so much as you.
Aye.
Bandits steal, kill without remorse. They don't deserve to live.
Oh, hey there. You here to join the Dawnguard too? Truth is, I'm a little nervous. I've never done anything like this before. I hope you don't mind if I walk up with you? Hey, don't tell Isran I was afraid to meet him by myself. Not the best first impression for a new vampire hunter, I guess? That must be it. Fort Dawnguard. Wow. Bigger than I expected.
That boy looks greener than
This place
grass.
looks almost deserted. I guess this is it. Wish me luck.
Here to join the Dawnguard? Good. Isran will decide if you've got what it takes. Go on, he's right inside.
Why are you here, Tolan? The Vigilance and I were finished with each other a long time ago.
You know why I'm here. The Vigilance are under attack everywhere. The vampires are much more dangerous than we believed.
And now you want to come running to safety with the Dawnguard, is that it? I remember Keeper Carset telling me repeatedly that Fort Dawnguard is a crumbling ruin.
I think Brynjar
not worth the
mentioned something
expense
about
and
this place.
manpower to repair.
Can't
And now
remember.
that you've stirred up the vampires against you, you come begging for my protection.
Isran. Carset is dead. The Hall of the Vigilance. Everyone. They're all dead. You were right, we were wrong. Isn't that enough for you?
Yes, well,
I thought this
I never
world
wanted
must
any
have
of this to
plenty of
happen.
hiding
I tried to
places.
warn all of you.
Who knows what those old
I am
vampire hunters left behind?
sorry, you know. So who are you? What do you want?
I heard you were looking for vampire hunters.
You heard right. I'm glad word's finally starting to get around. But that means it won't be long before the vampires start to take notice as well.
What can I do to help?
I need someone out in the field taking the fight to the damn vampires, while we're getting the fort back into shape. Tolan was telling me about some cave the Vigilants were poking around in. Seemed to think it was related to these recent vampire attacks. Tolan, tell her about, what was it? Dim Hollow.
Yes, that's it. Dim Hollow Crypt. Brother Adelwald was sure it held some long-lost vampire artifact of some kind. We didn't listen to him any more than we did Isran. He was at the hall when it was attacked.
That's good enough for me. Go see what the vampires were looking for in this Dim Hollow Crypt. With any luck, they'll still be there. Feel free to poke around the fort and take what you need. There isn't much yet, but you're welcome to anything you can use.
I'll meet you at Dim Hollow. It's the least I can do to avenge my fallen comrades.
Tolan, I don't think that's a good idea. You vigilants were never trained
I
for...
know what you think of us. You think we're soft, that we're cowards. You think our deaths proved our weakness. Stendarr granted you do not have to face the
Those
same test
bloodsuckers must be
and
getting
be found
bold.
wanting.
It's openly attack vigilance
I'm
like
going
that.
to Dim Hollow Crypt.
You almost have to respect
Perhaps
them.
I can be of some small assistance to you.
You there, boy. Stop skulking in the shadows and step up here. What's your name?
My name is Agmir, sir.
Do I look like a sir to you, boy? I'm not a soldier, and you're not joining the army.
Yes, sir. Isran.
Didn't I tell you to step forward? Farm boy, huh? What's your weapon?
My weapon? I mostly just use my paw's axe. When wolves are attacking the goats or something.
My paw's axe. Stendarr preserve us. Don't worry. I think we can make a Dawnguard out of you. Here, take this crossbow. Let's see how you shoot.
Crossbow? I've
Yes, a crossbow. Best thing for killing vampires. Just take a few shots at those crates over there. Watch the recoil. Take some getting used to. You'll get the hang of it. You concentrate, boy. Try it again. That's it. Take a deep breath and let it out as you fire. Watch the recoil. Take some getting used to. You need to concentrate, boy. Try it again.
Note to Hernir. When that idiot comes back and orders us out of his cave so he can look for those old books he was wittering on about, I'll give you permission to hang him upside down over a bear trap with the thinnest rope you can find. If he turns up in the company of those adventurers he threatened us with, you know what to do. Vegan. Alvaro's journal. I can hardly get any work done around here. Every time I get back to digging, some damned overseer comes around, and I have to go and hide under the wagon again to avoid him. I swear if they keep this up, I'm going to have to set up my workstation under there. Last time they came around, he hung around for at least 3 hours. I have no idea what he was expecting to find, but he eventually left. They come, they poke around, they ask questions, and they leave. That's how it's always been until yesterday. I fear they are starting to get ready to take over this dig and stay for an extended period. I had better make quick work of the next dig phase and pack up before they get back. Independent contractor my ass. As I expected, management did have their eyes set on taking things over and plan to move in on the camp in the morning and take over operations of the dig, seizing all the finds in the process. I'm heading out before they can take what is rightfully mine by discovery. I just need to find my damn tools before I go. I'd let some of the others know about the takeover. I fear they'd blow things out of proportion with all their old wives' tales about this excavation team causing people to vanish and possibly blow my chance to slip out unnoticed. Oh well, they'll fare well enough on their own, I suppose. Master Zoriam's Tale, about the Temple of the Two Moons and Elsewhere and its students, by Kaidan. The Temple of Two Moons Dance in Torval has for many hundreds of years been the finest training ground in all Tamriel for warriors of foot and fist. The masters teach students of all ages from all parts of the Empire the most ancient techniques and the most modern variations, and many a former pupil has graduated to a great fame. I myself trained there, and as a young child I remember asking my first master, Zuarim, whose former students he felt had best learned the lessons of the temple. I was not a teacher when I met this man, but a student myself, he said, smiling in reminiscence, his great wrinkled face becoming even more like the withered fruit of the bathroom tree. This was long ago, before your parents were born. For many years I had trained at the temple, rising to study in more difficult and demanding classes taught by the wisest and most learned masters of the Two Moons Dance. Gennanth, you will come to understand that the tempering of your body must attend the tempering of your mind, and there is a prescribed order of training we at the temple have designed over the years, in accordance with the way of Riddlethar. I had reached the highest level, where my power and skill were such that even by supernatural, magical means, few could ever best me in weaponless combat. There was a servant at the temple at the time, a Dunmer a few years older than myself and those in my class. We'd never noticed him, but in passing over the years, where he would enter the training chambers quietly, clean for a few minutes' time, and leave without saying a word. Not that we would have listened if he spoke, so enraptured were we in our exercises and lessons. When our last master told some of us, myself included, that the time had come for us to leave the temple or become teachers, there was a great festival of celebration. The Main itself deigned to visit and observe our ceremony. As we were and are a temple of philosophy and combat, there were contests of debate and competitions in the temple's war arena, not only among the elite few, but open to all students. On the first day of the festival, I was examining the gladiatorial roster to see who I would fight with first, when I heard a conversation behind me, the servants speaking to the archpriest of the temple. It was the first time I heard the Dunmer's voice, the first time I heard his name. I understand you wish to rejoin your people's struggle in Morrowind, Taran, the archpriest was saying. I am sorry to hear it. You have been an institution here for many, many years, and you will be missed. If there's anything I can do for you, please name it. Thank you for your kindness, the Dunmer replied. I do have a request, but I fear you would be loath to grant it. Ever since I came to the temple, I have been watching the students learn and practicing myself when my duties allow for it. I know I am but a servant here, but I would be honored if you would allow me to compete in the war arena. I stifled back a gasp at the Mer's impertinence to even suggest that he would be worthy to fight with those of us who had trained so hard. To my surprise, the archpriest agreed, adding the name Taran Omathan to the roster at the beginner's level. I was eager to whisper the news to my fellow elite students, but my first bout was scheduled to begin in a few minutes' time. I fought 18 competitions in a row, besting all. The crowd gathered in the arena knew of my prowess and gave polite, unsurprised applause at the end of each fight. As much as I focused on my own battles, I could not help noticing that other competitions were receiving more and more attention in the arena. The spectators whispered among themselves, and more began drifting away to see something that was evidently more spectacular and unusual than my unbroken string of victories. One of the most important lessons we teach from the Two Moons Dance is the lesson of rejecting one's vanity. I understood then the importance of achieving a personal synchronicity with one's body and mind, of rebuffing outside influence of no importance, but I admit that I had not accepted the lesson in my heart. I knew I was good, but my pride was hurt. It came down to a contest of champions, and I was one of the two. When I saw who the other fighter would be, my mood turned from one of wounded dignity to complete disbelief. My adversary was this servant, Taran. It must be a joke, or some final philosophical test, I reasoned. And then I looked into the crowd and saw anticipation of a great battle to come in every eye. We gave one another the sign of respect, I stiffly and he with great elegance and modesty. The fight began. Initially, I sought to end it quickly, still thinking that he was unworthy to be cleaning the arena, let alone fighting in it. In retrospect, I was being illogical, as I must have known he had bested as many students as I to have reached the final level. He offered simple counterblows to my attacks and responded in kind. His style was expansive, encompassingly sophisticated. Arcane footplay one moment and simple jabs and kicks the next. I tried assailments intended to dazzle, but his face never showed either fear or contempt of my abilities. The fight lasted for a long time. I don't recall when I realized I was destined to lose, but when it ended, I was not surprised with the outcome. With a sense of unusual and true modesty, I bowed to him, but I could not resist asking him as we left the arena to the sound of thunderous applause how he had so secretly grown to become a master. I never had a choice to rise in the temple, Taran replied. Every day I cleaned the training chambers of the elite classes and then the beginners. So you see, I never had the misfortune to forget those early mistakes, lessons, and techniques while observing and learning the ways of the masters. He left Torval early the next morning to return to his homeland, and I never saw him again. But I've heard people say he's become a priest and a teacher. I became a teacher as well, for children just beginning their training in the two moons, as well as the elite, and I make certain to bring my best pupils to see how the unlearned fight, so that they might never forget.
How did you fire?
"15 First Seed 2920, Kersuvio Cyrodiil. From their vantage point high in the hills, the Emperor Riemann III could still see the spires of the Imperial City, but he knew he was far away from hearth and home. Lord Glavius had a luxurious villa, but it was not close to being large enough to house the entire army within its walls. Tents lined the hillsides, and soldiers were flocking to enjoy his lordship's famous hot springs. Little wonder winter chill still hung in the air.
Prince Juilek, your son, is not feeling well.
When Potentate Vasidu Shai spoke, the Emperor jumped. How that Akavir could slither across the grass without making a sound was a mystery to him.
Poisoned, I'd wager,
grumbled Riemann.
See to it he gets a healer. I told him to hire a taster like I have, but the boy's headstrong. There are spies all around us. I know it. I believe you're right, your Imperial Majesty,
said Vasudu Shai.
These are treacherous times, and we must take precautions to see that Morrowind does not win this war, either on the field or by more insidious means. That is why I would suggest that you not lead the vanguard into battle. I know you would want to as your illustrious ancestors, Riemann I, Brazolas Dor, and Riemann II did, but I fear it would be foolhardy. I hope you do not mind me speaking frankly like this.
No, nodded Riemann. I think you're right. Who would lead the vanguard then?
I would say Prince Juilek, if he were feeling better,
replied the Akavir.
Failing that, Storik of Farun, with Queen Nagea of Reverhold at left flank, and Warjith Ulakth of Lil Moth at right flank.
A Khajiit at left flank and a Nargonian at right, frowned the Emperor. I never do trust beast folk. The Potentate took no offense. He knew that beast folk referred to the natives of Tamriel, not to the Shesi of Akavir like himself.
I quite agree, your Imperial Majesty. But you must agree that they hate the Dunmer. Ulakth has a particular grudge after all the slave raids on his land by the Duke of Mournhold.
The Emperor conceded it was so, and the Potentate retired. It was surprising, thought Riemann, but for the first time the Potentate seemed trustworthy. He was a good man to have on one side. 18 First Seed 2920, Ald Efaud Morrowind.
How far is the Imperial army?
Asked Vivek. 2 days' march, replied his lieutenant. If we march all night tonight, we can get to higher ground at Priai tomorrow morning. Our intelligence tells us the Emperor will be commanding the rear, Storig of Ferron has the vanguard, Nagea of Riverhold the left flank, and Ulakth of Lil Moth at right flank.
Ulakth,
whispered Vivek, an idea forming. Is this intelligence reliable? Who brought it to us? A Breton spy in the Imperial army, said the lieutenant, and gestured towards a young sandy-haired man who stepped forward and bowed to Vivek. What is your name, and why is a Breton working for us against the Cyrodiils? Asked Vivek, smiling.
My name is Cassir Whitley of Dwynnin,
said the man.
And I am working for you because not everyone can say he spied for a god. And I understood it would be, well, profitable.
Vivek laughed.
It will be,
if your information is accurate.
19 First Seed 2920, Bodrum's Morrowind. The quiet hamlet of Bodrum looked down on the meandering river, the Priai. It was an idyllic sight, lightly wooded, where the water took the bend around a steep bluff to the east with a gorgeous wildflower meadow to the west. The strange flora of Morrowind met the strange flora of Cyrodiil on the border, and commingled gloriously. "There will be time to sleep when you've finished!" The soldiers had been hearing that all morning. It was not enough that they had been marching all night. Now they were chopping down trees on the bluff and damming the river so its waters spilled over. Most of them had reached the point where they were too tired to complain about being tired. "Let me be certain I understand, my lord," said Vivek's lieutenant. "We take the bluff so we can fire arrows and spells down on them from above. That's why we need all the trees cleared out. Damming the river floods the plain below, so they'll be trudging through mud, which should hamper their movement." "That's exactly half of it," said Vivek approvingly. He grabbed a nearby soldier who was hauling off the trees. "Wait. I need you to break off the straightest, strongest branches of the trees and whittle them into spears. If you recruit 100 or so others, it won't take you more than a few hours to make all we need." The soldier wearily did as he was bade. The men and women got to work fashioning spears from the trees. "If you don't mind me asking," said the lieutenant, "the soldiers don't need any more weapons. They're too tired to hold the ones they've got." "Those spears aren't for holding," said Vivek, and whispered, "If we tired them out today, they'll get a good night's sleep tonight," before he got to work supervising their work. It was essential that they be sharp, of course, but equally important that they be well balanced and tapered proportionately. The perfect point for stability was a pyramid, not the conical point of some lances and spears. He had the men hurl the spears they had completed to test their strength, sharpness, and balance, forcing them to begin on a new one if they broke. Gradually, out of sheer exhaustion from doing it wrong, the men learned how to create the perfect wooden spears. Once they were through, he showed them how they were going to be arranged and where. That night, there was no drunken pre-battle carousing, and no nervous neophytes stayed up worrying about the battle to come. As soon as the sun sank beneath the wooded hills, the camp was at rest, but for the sentries. 21st Seed 2920, Bodrum Morrowind. Miramor was exhausted. For the last 6 days he had gambled and whored all night and marched all day. He was looking forward to the battle, but even more than that, he was looking forward to some rest afterwards. He was in the Emperor's command at the rear flank, which was good because it seemed unlikely he would be killed. On the other hand, it meant traveling over the mud and waste the army ahead left in their wake. As they began to trek through the wildflower field, Miramor and all the soldiers around him sank ankle-deep in cold mud. It was an effort to keep even moving. Far, far up ahead, he could see the vanguard of the army led by Lord Story emerging from the meadow at the base of a bluff. That was when it all happened. An army of Dunmer. An army of Dunmer appeared above the bluff like rising Daedra, pouring fire and floods of arrows down on the vanguard. Simultaneously, a company of men bearing the flag of the Duke of Mournhold galloped around the shore, disappearing along the shallow river's edge where it dipped into a timbered glen to the east. War Chief Ulat nearby on the right flank let out a bellow of revenge at the sight and gave chase. Queen Nagea sent her flank towards the embankment to the west to intercept the army on the bluff. The Emperor could think of nothing to do. His troops were too bogged down to move forward quickly and join the battle. He ordered them to face east towards the timber in case Mournhold's company was trying to circle around through the woods. They never came out, but many men facing west missed the battle entirely. Miramor kept his eyes on the bluff. A tall Dunmer he supposed must have been Vivek gave a signal and the battle mages cast their spells at something to the west. From what transpired, Miramor deduced it was a dam. A great torrent of water spilled out, washing Nagea's left flank into the remains of the vanguard, and two together down the river to the east. The Emperor paused, as if waiting for his vanquished army to return, and then called a retreat. Miramor hid in the rushes until they had passed by, and then waded as quietly as he could to the bluff. The Morrowind army was retiring as well back to their camp. He could hear them celebrating above him as he padded along the shore. To the east he saw the Imperial army. They had been washed into a net of spears, strung across the river. Nagea's left flank on Storig's vanguard, on Ulakth's right flank, bodies of hundreds of soldiers strung together like beads. Miramor took whatever valuables he could carry from the corpses and then ran down the river. He had to go many miles before the water was clear again. unpolluted by blood. 29 First Seed 2920, Higathe Hammerfell. You have a letter from the Imperial City, said the chief priestess, handing the parchment to Corda. All the young priestesses smiled and made faces of astonishment, but the truth was that Corda's sister Arisia wrote very often, at least once a month. Corda took the letter to the garden to read it, her favorite place, an oasis in the monochromatic sand-colored world of the conservatorium. The letter itself was nothing unusual, filled with court gossip, the latest fashions, which were tending to wine-dark velvet, and reports of the Emperor's ever-growing paranoia. You are so lucky to be away from all this, wrote Regia. The Emperor is convinced that his latest battlefield fiasco is all a result of spies in the palace. He has even taken to questioning me. Rupta, keep it so you never have a life as interesting as mine. Corda listened to the sounds of the desert and prayed to Ruptka, the exact opposite wish. The year has continued in Rain's hand. 3 Rain's Hand, 2920, Cold Harbor, Oblivion. Sothasil proceeded as quickly as he could through the blackened halls of the palace, half submerged in brackish water. All around him, nasty, gelatinous creatures scurried into the reeds. Bursts of white fire lit up the upper arches of the hall before disappearing, and smells assaulted him. Rancid death one moment, sweet-flowered perfume the next. Several times he had visited the Daedra princes in their oblivion, but every time something different awaited him. He knew his purpose and refused to be distracted. 8 of the more prominent Daedra princes were awaiting him in the half-melted, domed room. Azura, Prince of Dusk and Dawn, Boethia, Prince of Plots, Hermamora, Daedra of Knowledge, Hirsine the Hunter, Malakath, God of Curses, Merun's Dagon, Prince of Disaster, Molag Bal, Prince of Rage, and Sheogorath the Mad One. Above them, the sky cast tormented shadows upon the meeting. 5 Rain's Hand, 2920, the Isle of Artaeum, Somerset. Sothasil's voice cried out, echoing from the cave. Move the rock! Immediately the initiates obeyed, rolling aside the great boulder that blocked the entrance to the dreaming cavern. Sothasil emerged, his face smeared with ash, weary. He felt he had been away for months, years, but only a few days had transpired. Liletha took his arm to help him walk, but he refused her help with a kind smile and a shake of his head. Were you successful? She asked. The Daedra princes I spoke with have agreed to our terms, he said flatly. Disasters such as befell Gilverdale should be averted. Only through certain intermediaries such as witches or sorcerers will they answer the call of Man and Mer. And what did you promise them in return? Asked the Nord boy Wellig. The deals we make with Daedra, said Sothasil, continuing on to Iakisi's palace to meet with the master of the Sigicorda, should not be discussed with the innocent. 8 Rain's Hand, 2920, the Imperial City, Cyrodiil. A storm billeted the windows of the prince's bedchamber, bringing a smell of moist air to mix with the censers, filled with burning incense and herbs. A letter has arrived from the Empress, your mother, said the courier, anxiously inquiring after your health. What frightened parents I have, laughed Prince Julek from his bed. It's only natural for a mother to worry, said Severin Chorak, the potentate son. There is everything unnatural about my family, Akavir. My exiled mother fears that my father will imagine me of being a traitor, covetous of the crown, and is having me poisoned. The prince sank back into his pillow, annoyed. The Emperor has insisted on me having a taster for all my meals, as he does. There are many plots, agreed the Akavir. You have been abed for nearly 3 weeks, with every healer in the Empire shuffling through like a slow ballroom dance. At least, all can see you're getting stronger. Strong enough to lead the vanguard against Morrowind soon, I hope, said Julek. 11 of Rain's Hand, 2920, the Isle of Artaeum, Somerset. The initiates stood quietly in a row along the Arbalagia, watching the long, deep, marble-lined trench ahead of them flash with fire. The air above it vibrated with the waves of heat. Though each student kept his or her face sturdy and emotionless, as a true Psijic should, their terror was nearly as palpable as the heat. Sothasil closed his eyes and uttered the charm of fire resistance. Slowly, he walked across the basin of leaping flames, climbing to the other side unscathed. Not even his white robe had been burned. The charm is intensified by the energy you bring to it, by your own skills.
just as all spells are, he said. Your imagination and your willpower are the keys. There is no need for a spell to give you a resistance to air, or a resistance to flowers. And after you cast the charm, you must forget that there is even a need for a spell to give you resistance to fire. Do not confuse what I am saying. Resistance is not about ignoring the fire's reality. You will feel the substance of the flame, the texture of it, its hunger, and even the heat of it. But you will know that it will not hurt you or injure you. The students nodded, and one by one they cast the spell and made the walk through the fire. Some even went so far as to bend over to scoop up a handful of fire and feed it air, so it expanded like a bubble and melted through their fingers. Sotha Sil smiled. They were fighting their fear admirably. The chief proctor Thargalath came running through the arbor arches.
Sotha Sil! Almalexia has arrived on Artaeum! Iakis has told me to fetch you!
Sotha Sil turned to Thargalath for only a moment, but he knew instantly from the screams what had transpired. The Nord lad Welling had not cast the spell properly, and was burning. The smell of scorched hair and flesh panicked the other students, who were struggling to get out of the basin, pulling him with them. But the incline was too steep, away from the entry points. With a wave of his hand, Sotha Sil extinguished the flame. Wellig and several other students were burned, but not badly. The sorcerer cast a healing spell on them before turning back to Thargalath. I'll be with you in a moment, and give Almalexia the time to shake the road dust from her train. Sotha Sil turned back to the students, his voice flat. Fear does not break spells, but doubt and incompetence are the great enemies of any spellcaster. Master Welling, you will pack your bags. I'll arrange for a boat to bring you to the mainland tomorrow morning. The sorcerer found Almalexia and Iakis in the study drinking hot tea and laughing. She was more beautiful than he had remembered, though he had never before seen her so disheveled, wrapped in a blanket dangling her damp, long black tresses before the fire to dry. At Sotha Sil's approach, she leapt to her feet and embraced him. Did you swim all the way from Morrowind? He smiled. It's pouring rain from Skywatch down to the coast, she explained, returning his smile. Only half a league away, and it never rains here, said Iakis proudly. Of course, I sometimes miss the excitement of Somerset, and sometimes even the mainland itself. Still, I'm always very impressed by anyone out there who gets anything accomplished. It is a world of distractions. Speaking of distractions, what's all this I hear about a war? You mean the one that's been bloodying the continent for the last 80 years, Master? Asked Sotha Sil, amused. I suppose that's the one I mean, said Iakis with a shrug of his shoulders. How is the war going? We will lose it unless I can convince Sotha Sil to leave Artaeum, said Almalexia, losing her smile. She had meant to wait and talk to her friend in private, but the old Altmer gave her courage to press on. I've had visions. I know it to be true. Sotha Sil was silent for a moment, and then looked at Iakis. I must return to Morrowind. Knowing you, if you must do something, you will, sighed the old master. The Sigic's way is not to be distracted. Wars are fought, empires rise and fall. You must go, and so must we. What do you mean, Iakis? You're leaving the island. No, the island will be leaving the sea, said Iakis, his voice taking on a dreamy quality. In a few years, the mists will move over Artaeum, and we will be gone. We are counselors by nature, and there are too many counselors in Tamriel as it is. No, we will go and return when the land needs us again, perhaps in another age. The old Altmer struggles to his feet and drained the last sip of his drink before leaving Sotha Sil and Almalexia alone. Don't miss the last boat. The air continues in Second Seed.
The Wisp Monk by Matthias Etienne. Summation of legends regarding the Wisp Monks. Among the folk tales from the northern reaches of Skyrim, few subjects are as popular as the Wisp, ghostly women who lure unsuspecting travelers to their doom, steal children, and take vengeance on those who wrong them in life. Similar tales exist throughout Tamriel. The Melusan Eye of Stras Mackay, who lure ships to wreck on jagged shoals, then consume the souls of those aboard. The serpentine Kalas of Blackmarsh, or the Amronal of Valenwood. But unlike these mythic creatures, most scholars concede that wisp mothers actually exist. Though rare, credible reports of their sightings are simply too frequent to be ignored. Herein, a synopsis of what can be gleaned from provincial legends and the dominant theories on what they may actually be. Wisp mothers. Most tales agree on only a few basic facts about wisp mothers. They are always female. They take the form of human, some say elven spirits, wreathed in mist and decaying rags. They have an affinity for frost magic, rarely appearing in more temperate climes. But beyond that, the tales differ wildly. Some say they are ghosts waiting to be laid to rest. Others, that they are all that remains of the snow elves who once ruled Skyrim. Some say they are native to Hjalmarch, or the north more generally, but other tales mention them in forgotten places, on mountaintops as far away as the Jarals. Most reputable scholars dismiss these stories, preferring instead to focus on the few documented sightings from recent years. From these, two dominant theories have emerged. Based on his extensive research into necromancy and Cyrodiil's Ilead culture, Master Sadran Sarathai posits that wisp mothers are a necrologic state, a type of lichdom developed by a now-forgotten First-Era culture. Under his theory, these are no mere ghosts. They are a cult of powerful sorceresses who achieved eternal life through undeath. Alternately, Lydet Viliane of the Synod contends that wisp mothers are not undead at all, but rather elemental manifestations arising out of Nirn itself. By noting several similarities to Spriggans and ice wraiths, she contends that the wisp mothers are essentially elemental personifications of snow or mist, innately wielding the power of their element instead of manipulating it through conventional sorcery. Wisps. In most accounts, the victim is initially drawn to the wisp mother by glowing, ghostly lights. Although initially passive, these creatures later attack in tandem with her, distracting the victim and draining their energy. Popular legend holds that these are the spirits of the wisp mother's previous victims. These spirits strengthen her, so anyone hoping to destroy her must first release the souls of those she has killed. To scholars, this description immediately recalls the will-o'-the-wisp, a rare and dangerous swamp denizen of southern Tamriel. Oddly, Cyrodiilic legends invariably refer to wisps as lone predators, while these appear to exist in some sort of symbiotic relationship with others of their kind. Viliane argues that these wisps are a subspecies of true wisps, scavengers that lure prey to the wisp mother and share in the psychoethereal energy released by her kill. As codependent scavengers, they most likely lack the formidable defenses of their predatory cousins, rendering them far more vulnerable. Alternately, Sarathai posits that these wisps are merely emanations or conjurations of the wisp mother, and not free-living creatures. This is supported by one incident in which an adventurer reportedly killed a wisp mother directly, only to observe the remaining wisps immediately perish as well, though the source is considered highly unreliable. In summary, scholarly opinion about wisp mothers and wisps is sharply divided, and is likely to remain so for some time. But all sources agree on one crucial point. These are highly dangerous foes and should be avoided at all costs.
You need to concentrate, boy.
Yes, my lord.
Let's rest here.
Good a place as any to put your feet up. Dragonborn.
Any thoughts?
Ah, it's nothing. Don't you ever mind that.
Tell me what you need.
Let's talk.
All right.
Take a deep breath and let it out as you fire.
So, what do you love about me, Kaidan?
I was mad, bad, and I was dangerous to know. But you saw the good in me, and for that, I'll always love you.
I love you, Kaidan.
You are blood of my blood, and bone of my bone.
Let's talk.
Aye.
You need to concentrate, boy.
You're a wonderful person, Kaidan.
I love the way you make me feel.
I wish that for once I was taller, or you were a lot smaller, Kaidan.
Well now, Dragonborn, your wish is my command.
That's it. Watch the recoil. Takes some getting used to. Take a deep breath and let it out as you fire.
Who's a good dog? It's you! It's you, you're a good dog!
That's it. You need to concentrate, boy. Try it again.
I'll just be back here enjoying the view.
Away from prying eyes, strong walls and towers, very defensible. Good place to hunt those monsters from.
What is it, boy? What is it?
You little bastards!
It's time to kick some ass! You'll die this
I am pretty awesome. It's better than anywhere in Skyrim. The cold forests and the broken mountains. It always felt familiar somehow.
Hello there. How are you?
Hello?
Oh, I wasn't expecting anyone to come in here. What can I do for you?
What is this place?
Welcome to the Dragonborn's Aquarium. Don't mind the name. With the return of the dragons in Skyrim, I just thought it would be appropriate. Yes, well, I just managed to clean the whole place and install the aquariums. Now I just need, well, the fish. Ooh, my hero. Alright, if you manage to bring me some fish, I will compensate your efforts with a little bit of gold. Don't keep me waiting.
You look at home in these forests.
Synamius Journal, 4. 22nd of mid-year. Such a lovely day. I decided to take in a bit of fishing on Lake Ilinalta before the next stage of the dig site near the ruined fort. I was coasting along in my rowboat when suddenly the edge got high-centered on a rock. After dislodging the boat, I realized that the rock was in fact a well-carved ancient Nordic stone and was arranged with many others in a ring. I stuck my head under the water and was able to spy a sunken Nordic burial ruin. I didn't see a door that was apparent, but I would like very much at some point to come back and see what may be there.
Hunter's Journal. After trailing the beast for several days, I think we finally found the lair. It seems like their den is further in this cave. There may be more of them than we first thought, but after seeing the strange columns and pipes, maybe some sort of ruin here. My gran always said that those places were full of treasures, just waiting for the first person to find them. We decided to make camp and try to clear out the animals and see if there is anything worth taking.
Isran found something for you to do, eh? I thought he'd like you.
What could it mean? The return of the... Dragonborn? And who among us could possibly hold that honor and such power?
Feels like you're standing on the edge of the world out here.
Ha! Here we go.
We bloody did it! Do you want some more?
Starting to feel much better now. You want to do this the hard way? Fine. You can go to hell. Shit. Are you alright, little guy? Hard when you jumped out of my ship. Fight. I don't know what I'd fucking do if I ever lost you. Right. Check the ceiling, check the floor, check the fucking walls. Remember, you're not paranoid. These bastards are out to fucking get you.
What was it? Probably none of them.
You bastard!
We're bloody done.
That's my girl.
About surviving out here.
Aye.
I'm exhausted.
Maybe we should rest for the night.
Could you set up a campsite?
Okay. Give me a minute and I'll set up a tent. You'll be safe and warm inside. Aye.
Letter from Kaidan, 17 Rain's Hand. Lyria. Seriously? You had to go and become Thane of the fucking Pale? Dawnstar? The one place in all of fucking Skyrim that literally hates me? Granted, I definitely bloody deserved it, but that's not the point here. Tell me, have I wronged you somehow? Is this some sort of payback for stealing your sweet rolls or grumbling too much about carrying all your shite? Look, whatever it is, I'm sorry. I apologize, alright? Whatever it is I did, I take it back. Just please, for the love of Mara, tell me this was a joke. It was, right? Right? Fuck me. Letter from Kaidan, 18 Rain's Hand. Lyria, I could tell by the look you gave me that you overheard me mumbling to myself the other day. I don't want you to worry. There's nothing wrong. I've been, talking to the others about a thing that's been on my mind a lot lately, and, well, I thought maybe if I practiced saying it out loud, I'd sort of help me find the best way to, well, get the answer to a question, have that needs an answer, and shit. Promise there's nothing you need to worry about. I love you, and everything's fine, my dragon. Kai. Sans Journal. I have delved into dungeons far deeper and far greater than this, but I fear this will be my final resting place all the same. My bronze torch has been my greatest companion and greatest tool, able to ward off the fiercest of wild beasts and defend against the greatest of blows from men, but apparently doesn't stand up well to Falmer arrow fire. The torch I discovered deep inside a Dwemer ruin a number of years ago, and would have disregarded it as a piece of old Dwemer junk, a part to one of their innumerable machines, but it was being held in hand by the corpse of a recently slain bandit, who had run into the same ruins for shelter, possibly fleeing the authorities, or worse. The device was active, and I couldn't help but notice that it emitted a very potent blue light from the glowing orb of lightning it contained at the top. Not thinking much of it at the time, as I was desperate to flee from hazards of my own as the defenses of the ancient ruin came to life and were in hot pursuit. I took up the torch, for lack of a better word, hoping it would last long enough to light my way. After evading the defenses and deftly avoiding a few traps, I finally made it out and discovered that the torch still remained lit the whole time. As the years went on and I continued to use this invaluable device to light my way, and it never ran out of whatever it needed to power itself, it just stayed lit. I could turn it off when need be, mostly because the bright light kept me awake at night, but would always pop back to life with a crack as soon as I turned the knob. Alas, though, I feel the last of my life draining away. If any should happen upon me on this journal, please take the torch and bear it well. Notes for Redguard History by Destry Melarg. Biographical note. Destry Melarg was a well-known historian and translator of Old Redguard verse, born as simply Destry in the city-state of Rihad in the 20th year of the Third Era. At the age of 19, he went to the imperial city to study. There were few Redguards who had been to the imperial province at that time, and it may be that he took the last name Melarg in order to assimilate with the Breton, Nordic, and Dark Elf cultures he encountered there. When he died 94 years later, he left numerous unfinished histories and untranslated verse. Very few of this fragmented work has found its way out of collections. What follows is an unmailed letter to Melarg's publishers in the imperial city. The insights into the men who put the oral traditions of the Redguards to paper impressed me enough to seek its publication. Malleus, it should be noted, was Malleus Kane, Melarg's publisher in the imperial city. Vun, Redguardic First Scholar, Imperial University. Malleus, this is the outline of my final chapter for the series on the Hammerfell heroes. I condensed Dendel's storytelling. I have my notes, but the story gets long with all the quotes. She puts a lot of dialogue in her storytelling. I am amazed that the old stories about the 5 swords keep cropping up. It's been 1,000 years since Hellion's time, yet people continue to believe in the stories. The wagon master sat with me after listening to her story and smoked a pipe with me. In discussing the story, he said that his storyteller used to say that one of the 5 swords survived the closing of the Goblin Gate and is yet hidden there in Hammerfell. It was the least of the 5, but the story has it that it exceeds modern blade, magical or ebony, by several orders of magnitude. Of course, I take this with a grain of salt, since an ebony weapon is unparalleled in its keen cutting ability, and personally, I can't imagine a weapon doing more damage than a claymore of firestorm or a saber of lifesteal. Dendel even believes that out of the countryside outside of Skyrim, in one of the halls of the virtues of war, there are still people who follow the old ways and can form a shehai, or spirit sword. In collecting these stories, I once thought I was seeing a shehai being formed by an old hallmaster, but the thing, if it was a spirit sword, was so faint that even the sword shape was questionable. I don't want to insult the old man, so I claimed I saw it too, but if that was a shehai, I can't imagine it possibly being used as a real weapon. Here's my outline of the new story. At the time of this story, Hammerfell is fully occupied by Redguards, all the old cities of the dwarves, but one, the ghost city of Dwarfholm, are now the cities of today's modern Hammerfell. A second invasion of the giant goblins comes. Hammerfell is unprepared except for a few faithful followers, all youths in the rural halls of virtue. Halin, being the only Ansai, rallies the armies of Hammerfell. After a defeat, he brings back the old ways by telling each warrior to read the Book of Circles. The army fights the goblins to a standstill, but things look bleak, just as in Divad's song. Somehow the goblins kept being resupplied both with arms and troops. Eventually the army of Hammerfell will lose. The old master of Hallin's Hall of the Virtues of War has an ancient copy of Divad's will and testament, and reads it to Hallin. It tells him that the 5 swords aren't lost, just hidden and well guarded in 5 caves. Each cave is home to a master guardian, one of the old blind Ansei, and also a maze. According to the will, Derek must, along with a virtuous companion of pure heart, enter the cave, defeat each Ansai master, and retrieve their sword. Dendel went into great detail here. It seems that each master had an outstanding trait. One Catrice possessed feline grace, and had become very cat-like. Another, who had icy calm, was something much like an ice golem. On each blade is inscribed part of the intricate message on how to use the power of the swords combined. Derek scours the rural halls for brothers of the blade and maidens of the spirit sword to accompany him in the quests. He finally, one by one, finds his companions and wins each sword. They learn from the blades and together wield the force of the 5 swords to seal the rent in space-time that the goblins have made and from which springs their invasion. Hallin's companions avoided blinding by the magic swords by hurling the swords together into the void and sealing forever the giant goblins in the void between their world and ours. The land is saved, and Hallam and his companions, 3 women and 2 men, become Ansai and restore the teachings of Frandar Hunding to Hammerfell. That's the story in brief. I welcome any comments from you or one of the other editors. One other concern of mine. I understand that you are considering using a better-known writer, Uthila Abuch or Casimir Christram, to write the stories I've researched. I can understand that a better-known writer may mean that a few more copies of the books will be sold, but that should not be your only concern. Abuch and Christram, while fine writers and poets, will need to be lectured on the true history of the Red Guards. Even if you are willing to pay me to do that, you will have to acknowledge that the books will take longer to write than if you just allowed me to do it. Just something to consider when you make the decision. I hope this letter finds you, your consort, and children in good health and humor. Yours faithfully, Zestri Malar.
A 10-second seed, 2920. The Imperial City, Cyrodiil.
Your Imperial Majesty,
said the potentate Vesidushai, opening the door to his chamber with a smile.
I have not seen you lately. I thought perhaps you were indisposed with the lovely Rija.
She's taking the baths at Mir Korup, the Emperor Riemann III said miserably. Please come in. I've reached the stage where I can only trust 3 people. You, my son the prince, and Rija, said the Emperor petulantly. My entire council is nothing but a pack of spies.
What seems to be the matter, Your Imperial Majesty?
Asked the potentate Vesidushai sympathetically, drawing closed the thick curtain in his bedchamber. Instantly, all sound outside the room was extinguished, echoing footsteps in the marble halls and birds in the springtime gardens. I've discovered that a notorious prisoner, an Orma tribeswoman from Black Marsh called Kachika, was with the army at Keasuvio while we were encamped there when my son was poisoned, before the battle at Bodrum. I'm sure she would prefer to kill me, but the opportunity didn't present itself, the Emperor fumed. The Council suggests we need evidence of her involvement before we persecute.
Of course they would,
said the potentate thoughtfully.
Particularly if one or more of them was in on the plot. I have a thought, Your Imperial Majesty.
Yes, said Riemann impatiently. Out with it!
Tell the Council you're dropping the matter, and I will send out the guard to track this Kachika down and follow her. We will see who her friends are, and perhaps get an idea of the scope of this plot on Your Imperial Majesty's life.
Yes, said Riemann, with a satisfied frown. That's a capital plan. We will track this scheme to whomever it leads to.
Decidedly, Your Imperial Majesty,
smiled the potentate, parting the curtain so the Emperor could leave. In the hallway outside was Vesidushai's son, Severin Chorak. The boy bowed to the Emperor before entering the potentate's chamber.
Are you in trouble, Father?
Whispered the Akaviri lad.
I heard the Emperor found out about what's-her-name, the poisoner. The great art of speechcraft, my boy, said Vesidushai to his son, is to tell them what they want to hear, in a way that gets them to do what you want them to do. I need you to get a letter to Kachika, and make certain that she understands if she does not follow the instructions perfectly. She is risking her own life more than ours.
13-second seed, 2920, Mir Korup, Cyrodiil. Rija sank luxuriantly into the bubbling hot spring, feeling her skin tingle like it was being rubbed by millions of little stones. The rock shelf over her head sheltered her from the misting rain, but let all the sunshine in, streaming in layers through the branches of trees. It was an idyllic moment in an idyllic life, and when she was finished she knew that her beauty would be entirely restored. The only thing that she needed was a drink of water. The bath itself, while wonderfully fragrant, always tasted of chalk. "Water!" she cried to her servants. "Water, please!" A gaunt woman with rags tied over her eyes ran to her side and dropped a goat skin of water. Regia was about to laugh at the woman's prudery. She herself was not ashamed of her naked body, but then she noticed through a crease in the rags that the old woman had no eyes at all. She was like one of those Orma tribesmen Regia had heard about but never met. Born without eyes, they were masters of their other senses. The Lord of Mirkorup hired very exotic servants, she thought to herself. In a moment, the woman was gone and forgotten. Regia found it very hard to concentrate on anything but the sun and the water. She opened the cork, but the liquid within had a strange metallic smell to it. Suddenly, she was aware that she was not alone. "Lady Regia," said the captain of the Imperial Guard, "you are, I see, acquainted with Kachika." I've never heard of her," stammered Regia before becoming indignant. "What are you doing here? This body is not for your leering eyes." "Never heard of her when we saw her with you not a minute ago," said the captain, picking up the goatskin and smelling it. "Brought you a Nevius ichor, did she? To poison the Emperor with?" "Captain," said one of the guards, running up to him quickly, "we cannot find the Argonian. It's as if she disappeared into the woods." "Yes, they're good at that," said the captain. "No matter, though. We've got her contact at court. That should please His Imperial Majesty. Seize her!" As the guards pulled the writhing naked woman from the pool, she screamed, "I'm innocent! I don't know what this is all about, but I've done nothing! The Emperor will have your heads for this!" "Yes, I imagine he will," smiled the captain, "if he trusts you." 21 Second Seed 2920 Gideon, Black Marsh. The Sow and Vulture Tavern was the sort of out-of-the-way place that Zook favored for these sorts of interviews. Besides himself and his companion, there were only a couple of old sea dogs in the shadowy room, and they were more unconscious from drink than aware. The grime of the unwashed floor was something you felt rather than saw. Copious dust hung in the air, unmoving in the sparse rays of dying sunlight.
"You have experience in heavy combat?" asked Zook. "The reward is good for this assignment, but the risks are great as well."
"Certainly I have combat experience," replied Miramore haughtily. "I was at the Battle of Bodrum just 2 months ago. If you do your part and get the Emperor to ride through Dossa Pass with minimal escort on the day and the time we've discussed, I'll do my part. Just be certain that he's not traveling in disguise. I'm not going to slaughter every caravan that passes through in hopes that it contains Emperor Riemann." Zook smiled, and Miramore looked at himself in the Kothringi's reflective face. He liked the way it looked. The consummate, confident professional.
"Agreed," said Zook. "And then you shall have the rest of your gold."
Zook placed the large chest onto the table between them. He stood up.
"Wait a few minutes before leaving," said Zook. "I don't want you following me. Your employers wish to maintain their anonymity if by chance you are caught and tortured."
"Fine by me," said Miramore, ordering more grog. Zook rode his mount through the cramped labyrinthine streets of Gideon, and both he and his horse were happy to pass through the gates into the country. The main road to Castle Giovis was flooded, as it was every year in springtide, but Zook knew a shorter way over the hills. Riding fast under trees drooping with moss and treacherous slime-coated rocks, he arrived at the castle gates in 2 hours' time. He wasted no time in climbing to Tavia's cell at the top of the highest tower.
"What did you think of him?"
asked the Empress.
"He's a fool," replied Zook. "But that's what we want for this sort of assignment."
30 Second Seed 2920 Thurzo Fortress Cyrodiil. Regia screamed and screamed and screamed. Within her cell, her only audience was the giant grey stones, crusted with moss but still sturdy. The guards outside were deaf to her, as they were deaf to all prisoners. The Emperor, miles away in the Imperial City, had likewise been deaf to her cries of innocence. She screamed, knowing well that no one would likely hear her ever again. 31 Second Seed 2920 Cavus Rim Pass Cyrodiil. It had been days, weeks, since Turala had seen another human face, Cyrodiil or Dumna. As she trod the road, she thought to herself how strange it was that such an uninhabited place as Cyrodiil had become the imperial province, seat of an empire. Even the Bosmer and Valenwood must have more populated forests than this heartland wood. She thought back. Was it a month ago, too, when she crossed the border from Morrowind into Cyrodiil? It had been much colder then, but other than that, she had no sense of time. The guards had been brusque, but as she was carrying no weaponry, they elected to let her through. Since then, she had seen a few caravans, even shared a meal with some adventurers camping for the night, but met no one who would give her a ride to town. Turala stripped off her shawl and dragged it behind her. For a moment she thought she heard someone behind her and spun around. No one was there. Just a bird perched on a branch making a sound like laughter. She walked on and then stopped. Something was happening. The child had been kicking in her belly for some time now, but this was a different kind of spasm. With a groan, she lurched over to the side of the path, collapsing into the grass. Her child was coming. She lay on her back and pushed, but she could barely see with her tears of pain and frustration. How had it come to this? Giving birth in the wilderness, all by herself, to a child whose father was the Duke of Mournhold. Her scream of rage and agony shook the birds from the trees. The bird that had been laughing at her earlier flew down to the road. She blinked and the bird was gone, and in its place a naked elf-man stood, not as dark as a Dunmer, but not as pale as the Altmer. She knew at once it was an Aeliad, a wild elf. Turala screamed, but the man held her down. After a few minutes of struggle, she felt a release, and then fainted away. When she awoke, it was to the sound of a baby crying. The child had been cleaned and was lying by her side. Turala picked up her baby girl, and for the first time that year, felt tears of happiness stream down her face. She whispered to the trees, "Thank you," and began walking with babe in her arms down the road to the west. The year is continued in mid-year. To mid-year 2920, Balmora, Morrowind. "The Imperial army has gathered to the south," said Cassia. "They are 2 weeks' march from Alduval and Lake Coronati, heavily armored." Vivek nodded. Alduval and its sister city on the other side of the lake, Aldmalak, were strategically important fortresses. He had been expecting a move against them for some time. His captain pulled down a map of the southwestern Morrowind from the wall and smoothed it out, fighting a gentle summer sea breeze, wafting in from the open window. "They were heavily armored, you say?" asked the captain. "Yes, sir," said Cassia. "They were camped out near Bethel Grey in the Heartland, and I saw nothing but ebony, dwarven, and daedric armor, fine weaponry, and siege equipment." "How about spellcasters and boats?" asked Vivek. "A horde of battle mages," replied Cassia, "but no boats. As heavily armored as they are, it will take them at least 2 weeks, like you said, to get from Bethel Grey to Lake Coronati." Vivek studied the map carefully. "They'd be dragged down in the bogs if they then tried to circle around to Aldmarak from the north. So they must be planning to cross the straits here and take Ald-Uval. Then they'd proceed around the lake to the east and take Aldmarak from the south." "They'll be vulnerable along the straits," said the captain, "provided we strike when they are more than halfway across and can't retreat back to the Heartland." "Your intelligence has once again served us well," said Vivek, smiling to Cassia. "We will beat back the Imperial aggressors yet again." 3 mid-year 2920, Bethel Grey, Cyrodiil. "Will you be returning back this way after your victory?" asked Lord Bethel. Prince Juilek barely paid the man any attention. He was focused on the army packing its camp. It was a cool morning in the forest, but there were no clouds. All the markings of a hot afternoon march, particularly in such heavy armor. "If we return shortly, it will be because of defeat," said the prince. He could see down the meadow the potentate Vasidiu Shai paying his lordship's steward for the use of the village's food, wine, and horse. An army was an expensive thing, for certs. "My prince," said Lord Bethel with concern, "is your army beginning a march due east? That will just lead you to the shores of Lake Coronati. You'll want to go southeast to get to the straits." "You just make certain your merchants get their share of our gold," said the prince with a grin. "Let me worry about my army's direction." 16 mid-year 2920, Lake Coronati, Morrowind. Vivek stares across the blue expanse of the lake, seeing his reflection and the reflection of his army in the cool blue waters. What he did not see was the Imperial army's reflection. They must have reached the straits by now, barring any mishaps in the forest. Tall, feather-thin lake trees blocked much of his view of the straits, but an army, particularly one clan in slow-moving heavy armor, could not move invisibly, silently. "Let me see the map again," he called to his captain. "Is there no other way they could approach?" "We have sentries posted in the swamps to the north in case they're fool enough to go there and be bogged under," said the captain. "We would at least hear about it. But there is no other way across the lake except through the straits.
Vivek looked down again at his reflection, which seemed to be distorting his image, mocking him. Then he looked back up on the map.
Spy,
said Vivek, calling Cassier over.
When you said the army had a horde of battle mages, what made you so certain they were battle mages?
They were wearing grey robes with mystical insignia on them, explained Cassier. I figured they were mages, and why else would such a vast number travel with an army? They couldn't have all been healers.
You fool! Roared Vivek. They're mystics schooled in the art of alteration. They've cast a spell of water breathing on the entire army.
Vivek ran to a new vantage point where he could see the north. Across the lake, though it was but a small shadow on the horizon, they could see gouts of flame from the assault on Aldmarek. Vivek bellowed with fury, and his captain got to work, at once redirecting the army to circle the lake and defend the castle.
Return to Dwinnen,
said Vivek flatly to Cassier before he rode off to join the battle.
Your services are no longer needed, nor wanted.
It was already too late when the Morrowind army neared Aldmarek. It had been taken by the Imperial army. 19 mid-year 2920, the Imperial city Cyrodiil. The potentate arrived in the Imperial city amid a great fanfare, the streets lined with men and women cheering him as the symbol of the taking of Aldmarek. Truth be told, a greater number would have turned out had the prince returned, and the Vasidushai knew it. Still, it pleased him to no end. Never before had citizens of Tamriel cheered at the arrival of an Archiviri into their lands. The Emperor Riemann III greeted him with a warm embrace, and then tore into the letter he had brought from the prince. "I don't understand," he said at last, still joyous but equally confused. "You went under the lake?"
Aldmarek is a very well-fortified fortress, explained the potentate. As I might add, the army of Morrowind has rediscovered, now that they are on the outside. To take it, we had to attack by surprise, and with our soldiery in the sturdiest of armor. By casting the spell that allowed us to breathe underwater, we were able to travel faster than Vivek would have guessed. The weight of the armor made less by the aquatic surroundings, and attack from the water-bound west side of the fortress, where their defenses were at their weakest.
"Brilliant!" the Emperor crowed. "You are a wondrous tactician, Vasidushai. If your fathers had been as good at this as you are, Tamriel would be Archiviri domain." The potentate had not planned to take credit for Prince Juilek's design, but on the Emperor's reference to his people's fiasco of an invasion 216 years ago, he made up his mind. He smiled modestly and soaked up the praise. 21 mid-year 2920, Aldmarek, Morrowind. Severe and Chorak slithered to the wall and watched through the arrow slit the Morrowind army retreating back to the forest land between the swamps and the castle grounds. It seemed like the ideal opportunity to strike. Perhaps the forest could be burnt down and the army within them. Perhaps with Vivek in their enemies' hands, the army would allow them possession of Ald-Iuval as well. He suggested these ideas to the prince. "What you seem to be forgetting," laughed Prince Juilek, "is that I gave my word that no harm to the army or to their commanders during the truce negotiations. Do you not have honor during warfare on Archivir?"
My prince, I was born here in Tamriel. I have never been to my people's home,
replied the Snake Man.
But even so, your ways are strange to me. You expected no quarter, and I gave you none when we fought in the Imperial arena 5 months ago.
"That was a game," replied the prince, before nodding to his steward to let the Dunmer battle chief in. Juilek had never seen Vivek before, but he had heard he was a living god. What came before him was but a man. A powerfully built man, handsome, with an intelligent face, but a man nonetheless. The prince was pleased. A man he could speak with, but not a god.
"Greetings, my worthy adversary," said Vivek. "We seem to be at an impasse."
"Not necessarily," said the prince. "You don't want to give us Morrowind, and I can't fault you for that, but I must have your coastline to protect the Empire from overseas aggressions, and certain key strategic border castles, such as this one, as well as Ald-Umbil, Telarun, Ald-Dambasi, and Tel Mothribra."
"And in return?"
asked Vivek.
"In return,"
laughed Severin Chorak,
"you forget we are the victors here. Not you."
"In return," said Prince Juilek carefully, "there will be no Imperial attacks on Morrowind, unless in return to an attack by you. You will be protected from invaders by the Imperial Navy, and your land may expand by taking certain estates in Black Marsh.
whichever you choose, provided that they are not needed by the Empire.
A reasonable offer,
said Vivek after a pause.
You must forgive me, I am unused to Cyrodiils who offer something in return for what they take. May I have a few days to decide?
We will meet again in a week's time, said the prince, smiling. In the meantime, if your army provokes no attacks on mine, we are at peace. Vivek left the prince's chamber, feeling that Almalexia was right. The war was at an end. This prince would make an excellent emperor. The years continued in Sun's Height.
Cleansing of the Fane, a fragmented script from a member of the Elysian Order. Editor's note. This is the only surviving fragment of the chronicle of this first-era sect of the Elysian Order. It seems to have been kept at their great monastic complex at Lake Canulas, which was razed during the War of Righteousness, First Era 2321, and its archives destroyed or dispersed. Note also that Elysian scribes of this time customarily dated events from the apotheosis of Elysia, First Era 266. Here is recorded the events of the year 127 of the blessed Elysia. In this year was the day darkened over all lands, and the sun was all as it were maser but 3 days old, and the stars about him at midday. This was on the 5th of first seed. All who saw it were dismayed, and said that a great event should come hereafter. So it did, for that same year issued forth a great concourse of devils from the ancient elvish temple, Maleda, such as had not been seen since the days of King Belharza. These devils greatly afflicted the land, such that no man could plough, or reap, or seed, and the people appealed to the brothers of Maruk for succor. And then Abbot Cosmas gathered all the brothers, and led them to Maleda, also known as the High Fane in the Elvish tongue, and came against it with holy fire, and the foul demons were destroyed, and many Delvish relics and books found therein were burned, and the land had peace for many years.
My bonny lass.
Is everything all right?
Listen, there's something that I want to talk to you about. Aye, I'm probably not going to say any of this right. I've never been here before.
What is it?
Right, here it goes. For a while now, I've been looking differently at the world, and the things that I want from it. It's not that dragons were rising from the grave, or that war has split this country in two. Thought it might have been, but it's me who's not the same. Not since I met you. Knowing you changed me.
I don't think you're so different.
Love, you've known the best of me, but you haven't known the worst. It wasn't too long ago my life was just roaming from place to place, a dissipated brute, never sure of what I wanted. I know what I want now. I know that what I was really looking for was you. You are my home. No matter how far we wander, if you let me, I'd like to be your refuge too. I can't promise you everything will always be perfect, or easy. That's not how life works. But I will always fight for us. And I'll do everything I can do to give you the life you deserve. Love, will you marry me?
Yes, of course I will.
Divines, you've made me the happiest man who's ever breathed. How should we go about it?
I'd prefer a quiet wedding in the forest.
Sounds perfect. You and me under the open sky. I've heard about a priestess in the rift who might do the ceremony. Shouldn't be hard to track down.
I love you, Kaidan,
I love you too.
This is my favourite part of the day.
I thought I saw a place outside Harvestead. Seems comfortable, secluded. Could be a peaceful retreat for us. Maybe even our new home.
Kaidan, I was wondering something.
What might that be, love?
Just how long had you been planning to propose?
Well, to be honest, for quite a while. I've known there would never be another for me. Lately I couldn't think about a life without you in it. I just needed some time to find the right words to tell you how I felt. The right moment. I didn't want to spring it up on you after a battle, eh?
Yes. This isn't the sort of thing to surprise someone with. Did the others know?
You think I can do anything without one of them fucking finding out? Aye. They knew. And they'd been trying to nudge me now for a bit. The truth is, I wanted you to be mine for a lot longer than you know, love. But no matter their poking and their prodding, I couldn't rush this. You matter too much to me. And I wanted her. No, I needed to make sure when I asked that the moment was worthy of you.
That you took your time to make it special made it perfect. I love you, Kai.
And I love you, my dragon. More than you could know. Sometimes it feels like I won't ever find the words to say what you mean to me. Still, I can hardly believe you said yes, but I promise I'll be spending the rest of my life showing you how fucking thankful I am that you did. I love you. Plain and simple. Now and forever. Hey there, stranger.
Are you nervous?
Maybe a little. It's all a bit surreal. Never thought I'd be the kind to get married. That, and fate hasn't always been good to me. So I keep expecting something to swoop down and snatch you out of my arms. Are you getting anxious?
I know we are meant for each other.
Never been so sure. Something in my life. God, that smile alone can bring me to my knees.
Tell me about yourself.
Of course. What were you wondering?
I'd just like to say that I'm impressed with your common sense in all things.
You think so?
I do. You're very good at seeing the worth of things.
Well, I think with me not having what they call a proper education, it's allowed me to learn things for myself. Because of that, I suppose I have more common sense about things, rather than being taught what something is or isn't. I found it out for myself, you see. And it's much better to have common sense without an education than to have an education without common sense.
Can we trade some things?
What's mine is yours.
Did you want to read King?
This one has some good training tips for combat. Bah, I know better tricks than that. Here, let me show you some moves.
Let me check your gear.
Take what you need.
Would you read from this book to me?
Aye, as you wish. Your book collection is getting very worrisome. Is this another one of your filthy books, eh? Why do you seem to have so many of these? Could I be right about you using them to improve your one-handed skill? Well, whatever, here we go.
My lady, I could never perform your request.
Oh, God, he's not very good then, is he?
Oh, is it too fast for you?
More like he doesn't know what to do with it in the first place.
I fear that it may damage my instrument.
It sounds like that instrument was damaged long ago, mate.
Oh, but you seem to be able to handle your instrument so well, my darling.
God, this woman is desperate. You flatter me, my lady.
Yes, well, it's such a large and magnificent piece. May I hold it?
Ha! She is going to break that instrument in two. Run, man! Oh, goodness no. The innkeeper would never approve of such public displays.
Then may I suggest a private performance? Perhaps away from the noise of the inn, where we both may enjoy your tremendous talent.
Poor sod. He's about to lose his instrument altogether. And probably his talent too, once she finds out how inexperienced he really is. Surely you don't mean for me to accompany you to your room?
Indeed I do, my sweet. Indeed, I do.
Right. Done. Now let me show you my magnificent instrument. And you never wanted to leave, and you never wanted to leave, and you never wanted to leave. Cad is a scrappy little bastard and his breath stinks. But I have to admit, it's sort of relaxing the way he rumbles